Those of us who have paid attention to the manifold machinations of this current psychological operation that has been running full stop and with little opposition of consequence since early this year have noticed patterns that have developed throughout. Turns out, when you are not dogmatically beholden to the ideology of the so-called elites who run this clown show, stories churned out daily by the propaganda machine no longer seem like isolated, unrelated, and thus bewildering and demoralizing events, but rather as connected comorbidities in the same cultural cancer. During my interview with Kevin MacDonald, I quoted one James Paul Warburg, a Council on Foreign Relations globalist who said in 1950, "We shall have world government, whether it is by conquest or by consent." Warburg was far from the only one to make such a statement in modern times, and you could, through making only minor alterations in verbiage, attribute such a quote to many others, including Teddy Roosevelt, David Rockefeller, Ronald Reagan, Admiral Chester Ward, John Foster Dulles, George H.W. Bush, Henry Kissinger, just to name a few. Turns out, most of the aforementioned names, if not all, were registered members of the Trilateralists, the Council on Foreign Relations, and other globalist shadow groups that have continued, without any mainstream scrutiny, to run our governments, megabanks, multinational corporations, and of course, the media, who sell it all to the people using Bernaysian propaganda and mass mind control, appealing to our every insecurity and desire for the purposes of absolute totalitarian control. I've noticed many times throughout the past 6 months how similar these seemingly disparate and disconnected stories really are, despite what the Mockingbird media would have us believe, and I'm pretty sure that this is one of the reasons why I've been able to avoid the disillusionment, despondency, and confusion characterized by many who are not so similarly attuned to such consistencies. Starting out simply with the premise that the goal of these people is not our well-being or our healing in any one of life's long list of domains, but the Luciferian will to power nihilism and the lust for power and control shared by those at the top, who play puppet master to us lowly marionettes. America, as Joseph Stalin once said, is like a healthy body, and its resistance is threefold: its patriotism, its morality, and its spiritual life. If we can undermine these three areas, America will collapse from within. Look at these documents that I'm showing you now. They are the 45 declared goals of the Communist Party, the 11 objectives of the Frankfurt School, the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, and the stated objectives of Black Lives Matter. Are you seeing any patterns here? Any similarities? You ever notice the similarly Orwellian names and objectives of think tanks and NGOs like the Council on Foreign Relations, the Transition Integrity Project, the Open Society Foundation, the New America Foundation, and United to Protect Democracy? How about what it is that connects the feminist movement, the New Atheist movement, the transhumanist movement, antinatalism, nihilism, zero population growth, the Georgia Guidestones, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation? And why is it that the propaganda arm of these institutions' talking points, 90% of which come from only 6 globalist media conglomerates, all present the exact same stories at the exact same time in nearly the exact same way.
Of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
I know you and I see the similarities, but what about your average media mind-controlled normie who doesn't even think it's strange that every single one of his or her or their opinions are completely sanctioned and endorsed by every single one of the aforementioned institutions? Do you even think they know about what half of these things I've mentioned so far really even are? Do you think they seek out this information or just let the nice people in Hollywood tell them what to think? What about the masks and the social distancing and the social credit scores and the contact tracing, the lockdowns, the quarantines, the vaccines? What do all these things, every single thing I've mentioned here, have in common? If you're watching this video and you're familiar with this channel and others like it, you know that you don't even have to look very closely to see that all these things, all these ideas, these creations and institutions are ways in which the powers that be keep the vast majority of people you encounter every day enslaved through mass psychogenic illness and terrified through psycho-spiritual trauma and abuse. All of these guilty good whites, these proxy warriors of the radical left, they think that by joining the resistance and fighting for the revolution, that they're freeing themselves of the chains of outdated tradition. But in actuality, they're doing exactly what they want them to do, which is for them to suffer and to create suffering, to be ensnared by vice, to despair and to bring you and me and the whole damn thing down with them, to create enemies out of ghosts, to harbor resentments and grievances so deep that they'll exist eternally embittered and then graciously expire after attempting to live in vain their entire lives in opposition to the natural order of the universe. You comrades, you woke revolutionaries, you tolerant, enlightened, educated empaths, you honestly think that a bunch of billionaire sadists and psychopaths and their monkeys in the media care about your health, that they really care for the poor and the oppressed, for the differently abled and the disenfranchised, for all the poor children in cages and the good boys who didn't do nothing wrong, for the huddled masses out there just yearning only to breathe free if it wasn't for the man constantly cutting in to choke off their oxygen supply. You look at the bullshit they shove in front of you and you swallow it whole without question, yet you hand wave off everything that disputes what they've told you as conspiracy, forever unaware that the real conspiracy is exactly the very inversion of reality they've trained you since birth to believe. Remember this, that they have told you countless times in countless different ways that they want to control every decision you make, every thought and every emotion you have, everywhere you go, everything you do with your time, and whom you do it with. Look up every one of these documents. Look at the goals of every one of these institutions, these ideas, these organizations. They are all telling you the exact same thing, that they want to destroy everything good about life as we know it, everything beautiful, and replace it with what? You don't even know, do you?